What is your horror story from DNA tests like 23andMe? My parents and I all did DNA tests and I managed their profiles. Theirs were done before mine was available. They each got a panic message from a woman on the other side of the world who had matched as their daughter. She was distraught, thinking her parents had lied to her for her entire life. When I logged into my account, it showed that I had no DNA matches with my parents, which I knew to be wrong. Plus the fact my mom was a young child when this woman was born made it clear the company had swapped our results. Customer service just said, "Oh well," and offered a new test. My family found it funny, but that poor woman who had spent several days freaking out thinking her life was a lie before I got her messages and responded. My grandfather did not die when my dad was 4 like we always thought. Instead, he faked his death, walked 1,500 kilometers to the other end of the country, married a 16-year-old girl and had 7 more children, all the while leaving my grandmother to bring up the 6 children he had with her and his 2 children from an earlier marriage. Worst part was that he used the same names for the second batch of kids as his first lot. Found out, doing the ancestry DNA, that my paternal grandmother cheated on her husband with her also married family doctor. My dad has brothers and a sister that he never knew about. Dad says that the doctor must have known. He looks exactly like his brothers. And the doc used to always call him son during his appointments. His dad, that raised him, also must have known, 'cause he treated him like crap, and made backhanded comments that, knowing what we know now, tell us he knew, or suspected at the very least. My mom's generation has been really big into tracing our family tree. Turns out grandpa had 2 families that we know of. If that wasn't enough to discourage my family from uncovering skeletons, a few years later one of my cousins took a 23andMe test to find out that our grandfather is also her dad. Not me, but my coworker found out his biodad was not who he thought he was. Turns out he is one of the many children of fertility doctor Donald Klein. There's a Netflix doc about him if you've never heard about him. My kid took the test, and 8 years later, introduced me to a half-sister I never knew I had. My father had remarried and had a son I knew about. But this younger sister took us both by surprise. And the father in all this has passed on. So, I got a sister now. If you woke up tomorrow a billionaire, what would you do with the money? Start a podcast on how you too could become an overnight billionaire. Disappear. Check which currency it's in. Go to a 5-star hotel, take a shower and wash away the poverty one last time. I'd honestly just lay in bed and catch up on some well-needed sleep first, LMAO, as long as no one knew. Swim in it like Scrooge McDuck. What are some unsaid first date rules everyone should know? Put your damned phone down. Don't be afraid of awkward silences. And don't overthink. Be interested in what the other has to say. No short-worded answers. Just be honest sounds simple. Many seem to have a problem with this one. Be into her, him more than yourself, i.e., don't over-talk about yourself. Be on time. What is the most disturbing thing you saw on TV? Watching Nodar Kumaritashvili from Georgia die instantly at the 2010 Vancouver Olympic Games in a practice run leading up to the men's luge event. I've seen other sporting deaths on TV, like Earnhardt, Senna, but their crashes didn't seem like they were going to be anything but minor injuries. Hearing the clink thud of Nodar in that concrete post is a sound I'll never get out of my head. The earliest disturbing TV memory I can remember is news footage of Carl Wallenda, famed tightrope walker, falling to his death in San Juan, Puerto Rico in 1978. They showed him falling and hitting the ground. I had just seen him perform at a circus a few years earlier. Rwanda genocide. BBC were at a school and left, and when they came back they were slaughtered. 9/11. And then realization that the debris I saw falling from the towers were people jumping from many stories up. In the documentary there's something wrong with Aunt Diane. The camera pans around and shows her dead body right after the accident happened. I wasn't expecting them to actually show it. It was on Shepard Smith's show where they had a car chase and the guy bailed and shot himself live on TV. I remember well how Shepard was yelling at the control room to cut, but they didn't get it fast enough and the suicide made it live on air. I remember he was absolutely furious and he actually sincerely apologized. It wasn't a cookie-cutter apology either. You could tell he was furious and he felt this was way out of line for TV news. Not a lot of journalists or anchors like him anymore either. What is the biggest unsolved mystery in the human history? Consciousness. I feel like human history past 12,000 is the biggest mystery. And I fully acknowledge the history that we have. It just seems like scratching the surface of an incredibly large puzzle. The Bronze Age collapse. Are we alone? Where is Cleopatra's and Alexander the Great's tombs? Aspects of consciousness are referred to as the hard problem. Subscribe, my brothers.